Everything begins at 6 in the morning on the 28th of February, 2026. The sky over Tehran was clear, blue, peaceful. No one in the city imagined that in less than 30 minutes, the capital of Iran would be transformed into a field of ruins. Israel and the United States launched the most devastating air attack in modern history. 500 targets destroyed in Tehran, Isfahan, Qom, Karaj, and Kermanshah. The objective was clear to American and Israeli strategists: topple the Iranian regime once and for all, eliminate the country's nuclear capacity, kill the supreme leader, and force a surrender in less than 90 days. The result was exactly the opposite. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei died. The Iranian president was wounded. The Revolutionary Tribunal of Tehran was destroyed. The Golistan Palace, a World Heritage Site by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, was damaged by drone debris. The headquarters of the Expediency Discernment Council became rubble. The secret nuclear facility Minzadeh, hidden in a Tehran basement, was bombed in 3 consecutive waves. But the Shia Revolutionary Guard did not capitulate. On the contrary, it took total control of the country and declared war. In 12 days, ballistic missiles hit American bases in Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Jordan, and Iraq. The Al Udeid base in Qatar was the largest American installation in the Middle East. 5,000 soldiers stationed there, 100 warplanes. Iran hit 3 direct missiles on the main runway. American forces evacuated in panic. The Ali al-Salem base in Kuwait was hit by 2 long-range ballistic missiles. Kuwait International Airport collapsed. 14 civilians died in a field hospital hastily assembled. The Al-Dhafra base in the United Arab Emirates suffered consecutive attacks by kamikaze drones. The headquarters of the 5th American Fleet in Bahrain was hit directly. It was the naval headquarters from where all aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf operated. Iran sent 34 simultaneous drones. The American anti-missile defense intercepted 29. 5 hit the target. The sea caught fire. 1,500 American soldiers were evacuated in panic to neighboring countries. Civilian deaths were counted in dozens. The Kuwait airport suffered explosions. 4 people were injured at the Fairmont The Palm Hotel in Abu Dhabi. Drones flew near the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, triggering evacuations. Riyadh in Saudi Arabia confirmed attacks. Doha in Qatar intercepted 2 waves of missiles. Beirut in Lebanon experienced its worst night since the beginning of the war. 148 civilians died in a school in Manab, in southern Iran. 9 people died in a synagogue in Beit Shemesh, Israel. 1 person died on the MKDV Yam oil tanker off Oman. 1 person died at Mina Salman Port in Bahrain. The total human toll in the first week exceeded 20,000 displaced families. 4.5 million people were displaced in the last month alone. The International Organization for Migration called it the largest displacement crisis since the Syrian war. The economic impact was immediate and catastrophic. The global oil supply suffered the largest disruption since the 1970s. 150 ships were stuck in the Strait of Hormuz. Traffic in Hormuz was 90% lower than the previous week. Oil prices jumped to $89 per barrel. Gold reached $3,200 per ounce. European energy markets went into crisis. The European Union declared a state of energy emergency. The International Monetary Fund warned of a global recession. The stock markets of New York, London, Tokyo, and Frankfurt fell more than 8% in a single day. The conflict was no longer regional. It was global. The world was watching in silence as the Middle East became the epicenter of a war that could consume everything. 11 days after the initial attack, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps published a statement that would change everything. The Guard declared that it would close the Strait of Hormuz indefinitely if the United States attacked Iran's energy infrastructure. The Strait of Hormuz is the most important oil choke point in the world. 20% of global oil passes through it daily. Closing it would mean economic collapse for Europe, Asia, and the United States. The Guard also declared that power plants in regional countries hosting American bases would be legitimate targets. Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan were named explicitly. Countries that had never attacked Iran were now officially in the crosshairs. The Guard said that the war would only end with the complete surrender of the enemy. There would be no negotiations. No ceasefire, no peace talks, only total victory or total destruction. The United States responded with Operation Epic Fury. Israel launched Operation Genesis. The coordinated joint attack was the largest military operation since the Gulf War. The Pentagon admitted that despite intensive bombing, the Iranian regime's command and control structure remained intact. The American administration was losing the war in Iran. The president announced $50 billion in additional military aid to Israel. The Prime Minister of Israel said that for 47 years, the Ayatollah's regime had shouted death to Israel and death to America, and it must not be allowed to arm itself with nuclear weapons. The world was holding its breath. The trigger had been pulled. The chain reaction had begun, and there was no going back. What followed would reshape the entire global order. The Middle East was no longer a region. It was a battlefield, and the entire world was about to be drawn into the fire. The Revolutionary Guard Corps moved with precision that shocked American intelligence. On the 10th of March, the Guard announced it had destroyed 10 American and Israeli military radar systems. These were advanced warning networks that tracked every missile launch in the region. The United States had spent billions installing them. The Guard eliminated them all in coordinated drone strikes. The Pentagon confirmed the loss but refused to release details about casualties. The American administration was hiding the true scale of the defeat. On the 22nd of March, the Guard made a declaration that would echo through diplomatic channels worldwide. They said they would close the Strait of Hormuz indefinitely if the United States attacked Iran energy infrastructure. This was not a threat made in anger. It was a calculated strategic move. The Guard knew that closing Hormuz would paralyze the global economy. Europe would run out of oil in 3 weeks. China would face energy shortages within a month. Japan would be forced to shut down factories. The United States would see gas prices double overnight. The Guard was holding the world hostage, and everyone knew it. The Guard also declared something even more provocative. They said that power plants in regional countries hosting American bases would be their legitimate targets. Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan were named explicitly. These countries had never fired a shot at Iran. They had never invaded Iranian territory. They had never killed Iranian citizens. But they hosted American troops. They harbored American aircraft. They allowed American warships to dock in their ports. And now the Guard said that was enough. They were legitimate targets. The Guard was declaring war on sovereignty itself. On the 24th of March, the 80th wave of Iranian attacks began. Iranian state television called it the fiercest offensive in Iranian history. The Guard launched 342 missiles simultaneously. 218 were intercepted by American and Israeli defense systems. 124 reached their targets. The people of Kuwait felt the impact first. The Kuwait airport suffered multiple explosions. Emergency services were overwhelmed. Hospitals were filled with injured civilians. The Kuwaiti government declared a state of emergency. The United Arab Emirates felt the impact next. Dubai, the city of skyscrapers and luxury, became a target. Drones flew near the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. Tourists were evacuated from hotels within a 5-kilometer radius. The Fairmont, the Palm Hotel, was hit by a kamikaze drone. 4 people were injured. The American consulate in Dubai was damaged. The Guard said the consulate was a legitimate target because it coordinated intelligence operations with Israeli agents. Abu Dhabi suffered even worse. The refinery at Ras Tanura was hit by 3 ballistic missiles. Oil spills covered the coastline. Fires burned for 3 days. The emirate declared a state of emergency. Bahrain felt the wrath directly. The 5th Fleet headquarters was hit again. This time, the damage was so severe that the American Navy had to relocate its command center to Diego Garcia. The Mina Salman port was hit by a cruise missile. 1 person died. The Crown Plaza Hotel, where American contractors stayed, was bombed. 12 people were injured. The Bahraini government accused Iran of terrorism. The Iranian foreign minister responded by saying that Bahrain was an enemy state because it hosted American warships. The diplomatic rupture was complete. Saudi Arabia was next. Riyadh confirmed attacks on military installations near the capital. The refinery at Ras Tanura was hit for the 2nd time. 54 debris incidents were reported across the kingdom. The Saudi government activated its emergency defense protocols. The King of Saudi Arabia called the President of the United States and demanded immediate protection. The President promised to send 3 additional fighter squadrons, but the Guard said that more American troops would only make the targets bigger. The war was escalating beyond control. Jordan felt the impact too. A military base near Amman was hit. 1 American soldier was wounded. 54 debris incidents were reported across the country. The Jordanian government said that Iran was violating international law. The Iranian foreign minister responded by saying that Jordan was a legitimate target because it allowed American use of its airspace. The diplomatic language was returning to the Cold War era. Countries were choosing sides, alliances were being tested, and the world was watching in horror. On the 23rd of March, something unexpected happened. President Trump suspended a tax on Iran energy infrastructure for 5 days. He announced that productive conversations were taking place. The American administration was trying to negotiate. The Pentagon released a statement saying that the $50 billion military aid package to Israel was paused. The stock markets rallied. Oil prices dropped from $89 to $76 per barrel. Hope flickered for a brief moment, but the hope was short-lived. On the 24th of March, the United States sent a 15-point peace plan to Iran. The plan demanded that Iran dismantle its nuclear program completely. It demanded that Iran release all American prisoners. It demanded that Iran stop supporting Hezbollah and Hamas. It demanded that Iran allow international inspectors unlimited access to all facilities. These were conditions that Tehran would never accept. The Iranian government knew this. The Revolutionary Guard knew this. They were using the negotiations to buy time. Time to build more missiles. Time to train more drones. Time to strengthen their defenses. On the 6th of April, Iran rejected the ceasefire proposal. President Trump maintained his ultimatum. He said that Iran had 1 week to accept the peace plan or face total destruction. The American media portrayed it as a bold move. The Iranian media portrayed it as surrender or death. The Guard said that the war would only end with the complete surrender of the enemy. There would be no negotiations, no compromises, no mercy. The ultimatum was clear. But the question remained, would Iran surrender or would the world burn? The people of the Middle East were living in terror. Families were packing their belongings. Children were being sent to relatives in safer countries. Hospitals were preparing for mass casualties. Schools were closed. Businesses were shutting down. The economy was collapsing. The conflict was no longer about Iran and the United States. It was about survival. The Guard had declared war on everyone who supported America, and now everyone was wondering who would be next. On the 31st of March, the Revolutionary Guard issued a statement that would become the most controversial moment of the entire war. They published a list with 18 American companies and declared them all legitimate targets: Google, Microsoft, Meta, Apple, Oracle, Intel, HP, Cisco, Dell, NVIDIA, JP Morgan, Tesla, General Electric, Boeing, Palantir, Spire Solutions, G42. These were not random companies. They were the most powerful corporations in the world, tech giants, financial institutions, defense contractors. The Guard said that starting from the 20th hour Tehran time on Wednesday, the 1st of April, these companies would face destruction of their respective units in exchange for every terrorist act in Iran. The statement included an evacuation warning that sent shockwaves through the entire region. The Guard said that employees of these terrorist institutions should leave their workplaces immediately. Residents in the vicinity of these companies in all countries of the region should also leave their homes within a 1-kilometer radius. This was unprecedented. A military organization was ordering civilians to evacuate from private property in sovereign nations. Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan all received the warning. The Guard was not distinguishing between military and civilian targets anymore. They were declaring total war. The companies on the list were deeply embedded in the regional infrastructure. Microsoft had data centers in Bahrain housing critical government systems. Google had offices in Dubai coordinating cloud services for the entire Gulf. Apple had retail stores in every major city. Meta operated social media platforms used by millions of Arabs. Boeing had maintenance contracts with Emirates Airlines. Tesla had a charging network spanning the peninsula. The Guard was threatening to destroy the digital and physical infrastructure of modern life in the Middle East. On the same day, the Guard confirmed that they had already bombed a secret American base in the United Arab Emirates. They also confirmed an attack on a military barracks in Bahrain. The Pentagon initially denied both attacks, but satellite images released 2 days later showed massive destruction at both locations. The American base in the United Arab Emirates was completely destroyed. 52 containers were burned. 3 transport aircraft were on the ground. 28 American contractors were confirmed dead. The barracks in Bahrain was hit by a cruise missile. The structure collapsed. 12 soldiers were injured. The Pentagon finally admitted the truth under pressure from Congress. The international reaction was immediate and furious. The European Union condemned the attacks as violations of sovereignty. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session. The Secretary General called for an immediate ceasefire, but the Guard did not respond. They did not deny the threats. They did not apologize. They doubled down. The spokesperson for the Guard said that the companies were complicit in American aggression. They were funding the war through their profits. They were providing technology for surveillance and intelligence. They were legitimate targets under the laws of asymmetric warfare. On the 4th of April, the Guard threatened even more violent retaliation in case of new attacks. The spokesperson, Ali Mohammed Naini, said that the Guard would launch even more intense attacks if the war resumed. The American administration was considering a massive bombing campaign against Iranian nuclear facilities. The president said that time was running out. The Iranian government said that surrender was not an option. The Guard said that the war would extend beyond the region if American attacks continued. On the 7th of April, Kuwait and United Arab Emirates reported Iranian attacks even after a ceasefire. The ceasefire had been in place for only 48 hours. The attacks resumed within hours of the announcement. The Kuwait airport was hit again. The Dubai International Airport suspended all flights for 6 hours. The Guard said that the ceasefire was an American trick to buy time. They said they would not fall for it again. The trust between the two sides was completely destroyed. The economic impact worsened. Oil prices jumped back to $89 per barrel. Gold reached $3,200 per ounce. The stock markets fell again. The International Monetary Fund warned of a global recession. The European Union declared a state of energy emergency. China called for emergency talks with Russia. The world was moving toward a larger confrontation. The Guard had declared war on the global economy just as much as on American military power. On the 14th of April, the American administration announced that the Iranian regime command structure remained intact. The Pentagon admitted that despite intensive bombing, the leadership was still functioning. The president said that the mission was not complete. The Guard said that the regime was stronger than ever. The propaganda war intensified. Both sides claimed victory. Both sides claimed the other was losing. The truth was somewhere in between. But the people of the Middle East were paying the price. The conflict was no longer just about Iran and the United States. It was about the future of the entire global order. The Guard challenged American hegemony directly. They challenged the power of multinational corporations. They challenged the sovereignty of neutral nations. They challenged the rules of international law. And they were winning the propaganda war. The message was clear. The old world order was ending, a new one was rising, and it would be built on blood and fire. The people of the region were living in constant fear. Families were fleeing to Europe. Children were being sent to Asia. The elderly were staying behind. The hospitals were overwhelmed. The schools were closed. The businesses were shutting down. The economy was collapsing. The Guard said that this was the price of supporting America. The American administration said that this was the price of Iranian aggression. The truth was that everyone was paying the price, and no one knew when it would end.